Well, hello. You are here today on Hope Warriors. My name is FayDay, and I am the host of the FayDay show, Hope Warriors, and we're united around the idea of hope, healing, and wholeness. Today's show is brought to you by sponsor Donna Prigmore Consulting, Stella Dinwiddie Agency, and Nolan Productions. So we're raising funds right now for cancer treatments, and I wanted you to see some lovely quilts that have been donated, a percentage of which will be going toward cancer treatment. Further, there are these wonderful wooden, handmade items that are also being donated, and the percentage also of the sales of them will also go toward cancer treatment. And that's important, not just toward my cancer treatment, but toward others. We're developing a nonprofit fund so we can help fund actual non-standard of care treatments because we know that it heals people, and most of you have been following my journey. So let me update you on my journey. Many of you have reached out wondering how I'm doing. I've recently purchased a Rife machine for home use and will be educating anyone who wants to know about it. Since its use, my pancreatic cancer numbers have dropped drastically, and I'll continue to keep you updated. And you can reach me at 503-339-5225 or at P as in Paul, F as in Frank, dmeyer@gmail.com. And I'm more than happy to share with anybody. So this show focuses on hope, healing, and wholeness. And today I'm delighted to welcome Mayor Cathy Clark. Welcome, Mayor. We're just really happy to have you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Fay. And I am so thankful to hear about your journey and the hope and healing that you are experiencing, but that you aren't keeping it for yourself, but that you are letting that encourage other people in our community as they walk their journey as well. We feel so much better, and we are so strengthened when we have people walking alongside us in our journey, whatever we're facing. And just thank you for doing this. It takes a lot of courage to be able to be that transparent.
Well, I appreciate that. What I know about you made me want to interview you. I got to see you at the Kicking Cancer banquet, kind of an honoring banquet this year, which was fantastic. And I think I've known you since almost when you first got to be mayor, if I'm not mistaken, because I was already doing radio, and I think I've gotten to interview you before. And but you've been elected since 2015.
Yes.
And you are now going for your sixth bid, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Is that right? So my first question, people want to know, I want to know about you, okay? But I definitely want to know why. Why are you running? What motivates you? What drives you? Because this is a non-paid position. This is a hardworking position. When you were first running, you were actually, and you still are, if I'm not mistaken, working. And so that meant that you had to do extra in your life. You could have just kind of sailed along. You had a good paying job, great family. You're very family oriented. So tell me about you. Tell the people about you so they understand why you do this.
Well, thank you so much, Fay. I appreciate the opportunity to share why I and the council team chooses this kind of work of service in the community. So a lot of people don't know, but we do try to share that in Oregon, there are only 3 full-time paid mayors, and that's Portland, Gresham, and Beaverton. All the other cities, there are 241 cities, so the 238 cities remaining are unpaid or have maybe some small amount of stipend or whatever to assist with their finances or their needs. So why do we do this? Because this is an unpaid volunteer position, this is an opportunity to serve. It is as an act of service, just like everything else that we all get involved in our community. What you're doing, Fay, you don't get paid for this either. What you are doing is you are sharing help and health and wholeness. That is your service to the community. So back in 2006, when I was first elected to city council, I saw this as an opportunity to enter public service in a new way. I was already volunteering in the community. I had begun getting involved with the city, and I saw that as an opportunity to bring my life experience, my voice to the table, to join with other volunteers in our community who were shaping our city. That is a tremendous honor and responsibility. I believe that every person who lives in our community has both the opportunity and the responsibility to be a participant in community. I also believe that because these are volunteer positions, that it's important for me personally to be very focused on the job I am doing. So for 8 years, I served as a city councilor. That was 2 terms. In 2014, when then Mayor Lori Christopher had served for 7 terms, and as an aside, a term for a mayor is 2 years.
Okay.
So it was 14 years.
Wow.
They ask you every 2 years, do you still want to keep doing this?
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it does.
And it's important to check in every 2 years with the mayor position. Councilor 4 and mayor is 2. And that's pretty standard. So I went ahead and I put in to run for the mayor's position. And I have been very blessed to be able to continue in this service now this is my 10th year. So 5 2-year terms, and I'm running for 1 more.
Okay.
And I believe that it is important to finish the work that we began 10 years ago as I moved to the center seat, taking that long look out into the future for Keizer. I think that it's important that we have continuity, that we have sustained funding, practices, systems in place that take the good work we started and keep it going. So Keizer, when I moved here in 1989, I didn't know that Keizer was really still a baby city.
Yeah, way baby.
Yeah.
Way baby. I moved out in Keizer in 76 and was a resident for a long time, and then West Salem, and then back to Keizer in 2008. Again, Keizer's been a part of my life. I went to McNary. So
Go Celts!
yeah, I know, right? Ooh. Anyway, so kind of my husband and I both went to McNary, graduated in 73. So, yeah.
But that was before Keizer was a city.
It was.
And people who move here now have different expectations because they're moving into a city. A city does X, Y, and Z. And then they get surprised going, wait, what?
So when did Keizer become a city, Cathy?
Keizer was incorporated in November of 1982.
82, okay.
So the first attempt to incorporate this area into a city was in 64, way before I was in Oregon. And it failed. People go, no, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And it is. Only 1 city has incorporated in Oregon since Keizer.
Whoa.
Successfully.
Wow.
And that's Lapine.
Lapine.
Damascus has tried, and they have a very, I'll leave it as a unique story, and we'll leave it there. But it's hard work, and it's a commitment.
It is.
So that's why Keizer is a community, is a commitment to be a city. Yeah. You can have a loose affiliation, but when you take on these new responsibilities, it's like going from being in a relationship to a marriage.
Right.
You are committed now. There are legal obligations that go with it. There are responsibilities. But I believe, and again, I wasn't here in 1982. I was living in Corvallis. People were willing to say, you know what, we're going to commit. We are going to form a city. We are going to build a structure that is uniquely Keizer.
I think it's interesting that you were here not too long after that. In 89, you began to establish your home in Keizer, right?
That's right.
I mean, that's 35, and where we're at, 35 years, roughly?
Yeah, about 35 years ago. Yeah.
So it's not a small commitment that you've made when you did come here.
No, we moved here to be closer to my husband's work. My job had ended at Oregon State University, where I was working as a research assistant in the veterinary school. For those who don't know, I have a master's of science in biology, and my master's work was in wildlife and fisheries. So I was hired to work in a laboratory at Oregon State University, which is how I ended up moving to Oregon.
Oh, wow.
So I worked there for about 5 years. In that time period, my husband and I met and married, and we started our family. At that point, I was working at Oregon State, and my job was funded by a grant, and the grant ran out. So rather than apply for a new position and move in that direction, because we had 2 small children, and we were very blessed to be able to live on the one income, we chose to do that. And we moved to Keizer to be closer to my husband's work. He has had a career for 30 years with Marion County Fire District, began as a firefighter paramedic, and retired from there as a battalion chief. He then returned to work part-time because you can't work full-time after you retire on PERS for fire, but part-time as a chief for a small district out in West Valley.
Okay.
And then he retired out as fire chief there. So 42 years in the fire service. And what I did was when we started to have a family, I homeschooled our kids. I was part of the community starting with Indoor Park and a Palmacia Swim Club. Whatever my kids were doing, I was volunteering there and getting involved. And that is a real key for Keizer.
It is.
Keizer shows up.
Yeah. Parents show up.
Parents show up. The community shows up. We get involved. But what I love about Keizer was that it was really easy to get involved, which maybe some people are looking at what I'm doing now and going, that's a cautionary tale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in actual fact, by showing up, by engaging with what is happening in the community, we all have a role to play. We all have something to give.
It matters. It excuse me. It matters what is happening in your schools. It matters what's happening with your police department. What I jokingly say about Cathy all the time, she gets stuff done. Small 4-letter word, crap, whatever you want to say. She gets stuff done. And the reason that she gets stuff done isn't because she is heavy-handed. It's not because she's authoritarian. And that kind of brings me to my next question or, I guess, prompt, and that is that Keizer works and is special. You're talking about the spirit of the community, but it works because you're putting those values into practice. Would you just kind of explain how that is happening?
Absolutely. One of the things I love about Keizer is that we are very practical. I tell people that I don't have room in our budget for ideology. That's expensive, and it really doesn't get the job done. You take whatever your values are, Keizer's value, our motto of pride, spirit, and volunteerism. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does that feel like? It's action.
Yeah.
We don't just say it. We actually live it. And that distinguishes Keizer from so many other cities, that we are practical. We put things into action, but we want to make sure that what we're doing actually makes a difference. We don't just do something, go, okay, I can check that box and walk away. No, because again, that's not practical. That doesn't set us apart as a community that gets things done. So we take our ideals, our values, our sense of community where everybody, and I want to emphasize everybody, when you move to Keizer, you become a Keizerite.
Yeah, you do.
And you're a Keizerite for life. You might leave.
Yeah.
But if once a Keizerite, I tell people, always a Keizerite. There's something special about Keizer as a community. By simply moving here, you are now part of community.
That's right.
And because you're part of community, you and I and us together work to get things done. We identify a problem, an opportunity, a project, something that we want to get done, and then we figure out who does what. And we, not an I, not a you, not a person, but we figure it out, and then we get it done.
How does community get to know about all the practicalities? How do they know that what you're doing and how it is going to affect them?
I really encourage people to, again, you show up and get engaged. A lot of us do hard work on outreach and communications, and that is probably one of the most challenging things for us to do as elected leaders is to deeply engage and communicate. So we have the outward communications, and during these last several years with the advent of Zoom and so many of the online platforms that were just kind of coming around before 2020 and are now so deeply embedded in our communications. What I'm doing with you here today, I want to be present and use our different means of communications to let people know what's going on. Because of Zoom, my in-person monthly coffee with Cathy, where I would be at a coffee shop, invite people to join me, had to become electronic. hence the birth of my monthly now Coffee with Cathy on Facebook Live and on KeizerTV.com. Then I realized it's not just the city of Keizer. We also have the fire districts. We have two, Marion County Fire District and Keizer Fire District, both wonderful organizations. We have the school district, Chemeketa Community College. We have the Chamber of Commerce, which, again, is not a government, but a key component for our success of our business community. Again, community, bringing people together. And I realized, and Chariots, the Salem-Keizer Mass Transit is a government agency with an elected person, now appointed, but at that point it was elected, representing our area for Keizer. And I thought, what if I gather all of the colleagues that are doing what I'm doing? We're serving Keizer, we're representing Keizer's voice, bring us all together in one program. And that's how Coffee with Cathy was born.
That's beautiful. I love it. And what I love is the camaraderie that I feel in Keizer. I do Keizer Chamber, and we were just at the the Grange, watching it open and, all that, right? So super exciting. I think that's how we hooked up for this plan right here. But anyway, but 150 people came out. And what's the population of Keizer?
Keizer is just shy of 40,000.
Okay, so if 150 people show up for just one event on a work day,
yes,
Tuesday morning, okay, and for a ribbon cutting for a business, that's a coalition that has been well laid out and well formed, and Tim Davis and his team here at the rec. The lanes. So the lanes here at Town and Country, what used to be Town and Country in Keizer, is now the rec. Now they have the rec Grange Hall for youth, which, by the way, a little plug for that. You buy a coffee mug per month, right? $15 a month, unlimited coffee a month. I just think that's fantastic. When a cup of coffee costs $5-6 somewhere, and it's not snooty coffee, they said, which is awesome. Anyway, so just a little plug for that. So that's what I like and that speaks to the spirit of Keizer, the community of Keizer. It also speaks to putting those practical things into action, because that was one of the huge practical things to get a youth center right next to the high school.
Indeed. And that property had been sitting there for a long time. The Keizer Grange was a very active organization in years past. Things had changed and so forth, and that building was not being used for anything. There had been many attempts to find a use for it, to work with the organization that owned it. But the timing wasn't right, or people were like, no, we're not going to do it yet. But the timing, the people, the place, the Grange organization, thank you. Thank you so much for working with the rec and Valor Mentoring to put this building back into action.
Beautiful.
In a way that
After
is
85
going to
years.
Yeah. It really needed to be used again, and is being used in a way that I think really honors the tradition and the values of the Grange. That was and I won't say totally past tense, there are some active Granges in this area. And I think this really honors that legacy in this building now being a space and a place for community to happen that really speaks to our young people. That our young people have been asking for this for a long, long time. When my kids were teenagers, what am I going to do? Where am I going to hang out? And they weren't wrong.
No.
They weren't wrong.
There was not places. There were places in Salem. I remember Razzle Dazzles in the 90s, and I remember the Exit, and there were several by the YMCA and different ones when I was young in the 70s. I came here in 64. So I remember some of those places, but you sought out places where young people would be. Under 18 clubs where you could dance or, whatever, meet your boyfriend or girlfriend, those sorts of places. But they were nicely done. They were not, gangsterish or, they weren't acting out. One of the things that I love about Keizer, Cathy, is how the police department works with the city to make sure that it's safe to walk around Keizer. So can you talk a little bit about your association with the Keizer Police Department?
Absolutely. The Keizer Police Department is our largest department in the city of Keizer. So the police department is one of the key areas. And quite frankly, it is one that is so integral to creating the community of Keizer. Our police department needs to reflect and act on the values of our community that we have actually adopted a values statement as a city council to guide our work as a volunteer council, but also as our community, where it states all people shall be treated with dignity and respect.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
It took a lot of work to get to that very key statement. And we worked on it during a time when there was a great deal of controversy and a great deal of angst about how is law enforcement, community, all of these things working together or not. And we had a lot of input from people, a lot of concern, ideas, inspiration that went into crafting that simple, elegant, action-based statement.
Yeah, this started back pre-COVID, just hard really during that time, and then the George Floyd thing and all that, and there was just a lot of ruckus, COVID and all that, and just kind of played into it. And I still think it was so funny. We're headed to the Grange opening, and I was taking the shuttle, and all of a sudden the door slides open, and here's like this entire shuttle full of law enforcement, and I'm like, okay. So I walk up to the door, and I'm like, this isn't like a paddy wagon, and you're on to me or nothing. It was hilarious. Travis is driving. Get in here, DeMeyer. It was awesome. It was cool. I mean, but that kind of community feel with law enforcement. So I'd look over to my left, and here's Van Cleve, and I'm like, "You're Aaron's brother, aren't you?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Yeah, he was in my class at Chemeketa." He goes, "I'm older."
Yes.
He needed this baby face. I'm like, yes, you are older, but oh my gosh, she looks so young, and that's just kind of the feeling that people have. It's not we're out to get people. They have a school resource officer at McNary.
School safety officers.
Yeah, safety now.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a different program. When the school district made a decision on how they were going to manage schools and security and so forth, Keizer Police worked very, very hard with the school administration to create a different way that they could still have that connection for public safety and in partnership with the schools. They just had to do it differently because of policy decisions made by the school district. Yeah. But Keizer Police was proactive. And I think this gets to what you were asking me about our Keizer Police Department and the philosophy of policing, that we are seeing that they understood that there was a challenge given to them. You can be here, but not here. Okay, but go back to what Keizer does. We show up. Yeah. We're practical. So rather than go, well, phooey.
Yeah.
Oh, well, nothing we can do about it. Nope. Because our police department recognized that there was still a need and there were still some challenges faced by our students and our community around safety, they helped create the school safety officer program. And we have 3 school safety officers that work in conjunction with the schools and the rest of the police department to do as much as they can to bring safety, security, good process, and good practices to keep our students and our community safe. Yeah. Huge shout out to the leadership, but also the buy-in by every member of the Keizer Police Department and our management at the city. At that point, it was City Manager Chris Epley, now City Manager Adam Brown, with that same philosophy of we figure it out, we get to yes, and we put it into action.
Yeah, I love that. And the way that I have seen it over the last, I'd say probably at least 10 years that I know of, and that's been during your tenure largely, I've seen the Keizer police chief at more events than you can imagine. I mean, giving voice to community policing, giving voice to being in the community as a safety organization, not a gotcha organization. And it makes me really thrilled because I've always seen law enforcement as a kid as being a place to run to for safety. Mm-hmm. And they've been villainized so much in our culture to run away from and deny and, don't be a snitch, You hear the songs that play for kids and stuff, snitches get stitches and, just stupid stuff, And the reality is, no, without that support, there are certain people out there who might not be wonderful people. But if they know there's a consequence, and in Keizer, there's consequences, you have to follow the law. And you've done that with the homeless, also being compassionate. You've done that with folks who struggle with chronic mental illness, also with compassion. You've done that with people who might have disabilities, also with compassion. None of these things allow you to go out and break the law, but we're going to help you not break the law.
Right.
I just love it.
That's so important because, yes, we have, the way I frame this is that there are things that are no. Mm-hmm. This is not okay. This is not for the health and safety and well-being of community. Mm-hmm. That no. But you then have to have a yes. Mm-hmm. So if there is a problem and no, how you are behaving or how I am choosing to live my life because of that is not going to work in community, where is the yes? Mm-hmm. And so I can give two examples of that. Okay. One of the ways I got involved in Keizer way back in the 90s was when I moved here. As I said, it was a baby city, and my neighbor behind me torched off a pile of yard debris. Mm-hmm. I have asthma.
Yeah.
Not good. And I just thought, wait, we live in a city. What are they thinking? And then I found out Keizer, being a young city, had never dealt with this before, and it was just simply a carryover from the unincorporated rural environment in which Keizer was still evolving from. At the same time, apparently I wasn't the only one dealing with it. A task force had been formed, and Dr. Jerry McGee, who was serving as a city councilor, was leading that task force to deal with backyard burning. And so what did I do? I showed up. And I listened. Mm-hmm. And I saw what Dr. McGee did. He understood the no is no backyard burning. This is a bad thing. It's bad for the environment. It's bad for health. It's bad for our children. And there's a safety problem as well. But recognizing that just say no more burning, problem solved. Nope. Because then ask the question behind the question. What's being burned? Yard debris. What's the yes?
Yeah.
The yes was
picking up yard debris.
Creating the program. There wasn't one.
There wasn't.
So Dr. McGee gathered up all the people that would be involved in bringing forth solutions. He didn't know how to do that, but he knew who to ask. And everybody who even had an idea, a perspective, brought them all to the table. And I watched as it went from, okay, problem solving, here's an opportunity. What could this look like? Who would need to be involved? How can this be structured? What steps need to be taken to put it into action? And then it was put into action. And now we have the Green Can program.
Yeah.
It went from, no, you can't burn the yard debris, and here's the yes. Yes, you may compost it, and this is how it's going to get done. Yeah. That comprehensive soup to nuts problem solving has been the model in my brain for how we get things done.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it because you also created a business too, added an aspect to a business already in place, which was picking up debris, picking up garbage, picking up, recycling, you know what I mean? People are coming to your door anyway. This is a whole nother company. It's a whole nother part of it, but it added business and it added jobs. So it didn't take away from the community, it built. Now, what it might have added is a nominal amount to your garbage bill. But what I do know about most garbage companies, just so y'all know, if you're struggling to pay your garbage bill, they will assist you. Because they're not trying to nab you in that way. Like, I'm talking elderly. I'm talking people who are literally financially struggling, not because you want to have Netflix, okay? That's not what I consider a struggle. But because you cannot pay the bill. then they will help you. So get on the phone to your garbage person and work with them on that, those details. Am I right?
Not only that.
It's not a gotcha.
It is not a gotcha. And on top of that, the city of Keizer will do the same thing. We have programs already in place that if people are struggling, don't wait and not pay the bill. Go in early.
Yeah.
Work with our utility billing staff. They know who is offering services and financial assistance for people. And as an aside, this became extremely important during the COVID shutdown when people were being thrown out of work against their will. They didn't have a means to pay their bill. They could talk to the city of Keizer, which was open. Even during COVID, we figured out a way. We figured it out to stay open, keep our council meeting in person. We figured it out. But if you're having a difficulty paying your utility bill, our staff will work with you to help with payment plans and to put you in touch with organizations who are providing funding to help with keeping your bills current. So that is true then if you're having trouble with your electric bill and so forth, they will help refer you.
Electric,
They're all
gas,
networked.
all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one of the other things too, is oftentimes the people who need the information don't have it. They don't know where to get it. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is I want people to know where to get information, and how to be a part of showing up in Keizer. Maybe you're a brand new Keizerite, and you've not shown up yet, and you might have babies, and you might only have one person working, and like Cathy and her husband, just kind of, you're coming in and you want to do a good job, but your kids bring you into community, right, first. And then after that, as they go through the school system, it's a bigger and bigger community. And so a little by little, you don't have to jump all in all at once. But like you said, everything my kids got involved in, I volunteered at.
Right.
That's the beginning. That's to me, a model. That's one of the models for that. What do you see right now as the biggest challenge for Keizer?
Some of our biggest challenges right now, there's about 2 or 3 of them.
By the way, I didn't prompt this question at a time. This was a pop quiz right now. I'm just being honest.
No, but this is something that I think about every single day. Where are we going? What are the obstacles, the barriers, and the opportunities that Keizer is continuing to face? And as we've come out of the 3 years of what I call what the heck, between COVID, the fires, the ice storm. Keizer is also going through a major transition in our staff leadership. So we have a city manager who's been with us for 2 years, and many of our department heads reached the point of retirement. So continuity of our services, making sure that we are prepared to pass the baton solidly from one generation of department head leadership to the next has been very, very important. And one of the reasons I want to do one more term. I have the history, I have the knowledge, and I'm able to finish pretty much what I was already doing when 2020 hit. Was looking at systems within the city to make sure that they have moved from the entrepreneurial, startup, baby city, young city, into the sustained, ongoing communication and practices that can outlast an individual and be in place for the next generation to keep going rather than having to reinvent the wheel. So we're now circling back with some of that. Our city attorney, who was with us literally from the start, Shannon Johnson, has been magnificent for the people of Keizer, and I cannot say enough thank yous to Shannon for his work for the people of Keizer for these 40 years, starting off as a contract attorney, eventually coming on staff. Joe Lindsay is now our city attorney, and he is able to literally pick up and keep going because of the great work and the continuity put in place by Shannon and Tammy Harms, his legal assistant. But one of the things Keizer had never invested in was codifying our ordinances and our resolutions. They were having to do everything by looking it all up and keeping these massive files. And the city had never invested in the process to create a Keizer code like every other city has.
Right.
We were the only ones that didn't have it. We do now.
That's awesome.
So it hasn't been finalized yet. Shannon stayed on to finish that project, but that was one way of downloading. Again, looking at our continuity. That's one example of where we need to have ongoing, really good continuity from one generation to the next of leadership within the city staff. We had Tracy Davis and Debbie Lockhart, our city recorder and deputy city recorder, went and retired together.
Seems so wrong.
That was last summer. Yeah, they did it together. And we were able to bring on Melissa Bissett and promote Don Wilson from within the city to keep the work going. They are bringing the fresh eyes. They're bringing their skill sets in to pick up and keep it going. Yeah. So from my perspective, one of our challenges is to make sure that what we are doing with our senior staff leadership, which they now are organized in what our city manager, Adam Brown, has rebranded as an executive leadership team. Every department head, they used to call it department heads. Nope, they are a leadership team, and that's really taking the culture to the next level. And I really appreciate what we're seeing in the collaboration and breaking down of silos within even a government as small as ours. We only have about 100 employees. Yeah. We're really small. So that's one of our challenges. The other one is the challenges for sustained finance. Yeah. So I would encourage people to go back and watch the two programs that are now on KeizerTV.com for the Long Range Planning Task Force. The first one, we spent some time explaining why our general fund, which is the one that receives property taxes, franchise fees, and revenue sharing, why it is so constrained, why it is so tight.
And it has to be managed at a micro level. That's all I can say. And you've kept budget.
Yeah, we do.
Am I right? But
we have to.
But you didn't. I mean, the city wasn't in great shape when you came in, as I recall.
We have continued to struggle with this because of things beyond our control.
Yes.
Measure 50 does not allow us to tax new construction at the real market value. There is a formula that they take that new market value and bring it down to an artificial assessed value. So the new verdict crossing, for example, the apartments, the real market value is this. The assessed value is 41% of that, and that's what they base the taxes off of. We're losing $20,000 a year on that alone.
Wow.
So every single new property that comes on, because people come in, well, look at all this new construction. The city should be doing great. We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
This is in the state constitution, and every single property that comes on, they get a real market value and then a calculation that would make most people's brains go boom.
Was that designed to bring building in and bring business in? I mean, what was it designed for originally?
This was part of Measure 50, which was designed to cap property taxes at a 1996 level, and new construction needed to be recalculated back according to how that was written. And quite frankly, I didn't really understand it until a couple of years ago. And I've been doing this for a long time.
It's weird because my property taxes are out the roof.
But when you look at, so you have the property taxes for the operations, then when you add on bonds, that is outside the cap. And so that's different. So it depends on where you live.
So that's why more bond measures are being asked for to fill in some of these blanks because of these rules.
Not really. The bond is for construction.
Okay.
And then the levies are within the cap. So our Keizer Fire District, Marion County Fire District, the only way they've been able to keep body and soul together because their tax base is fixed, just like Keizer, $208 per thousand. We're the lowest tax base of a tax base. The $208 per thousand is the lowest one for a full-service city in Oregon.
Wow.
Now, there are some partial service cities that even have zero. But I'm talking about full service. We're considered a full service city, even though fire is not part of the city. So it's a challenge. How do we manage these funds, get the best value, That's what Keizer's about.
And you're working all of that for free. I mean, I'm just messing with I go back to this, and I mean this in a sincere, non-placating way at all. That's a lot, Cathy. That's a lot. And so you have to have a vision for your city to want to have something ongoing for the future for your kids, your grandkids, their kids, and so on. You have to have that mindset in order to do this, because this is not, fun. Some days.
Some days it's not.
You make it fun.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's hard work.
It is very hard work, and everybody who's involved, and I want to give a big shout out to my team, to our team, city councilors, Laura Reed, Robert Hussman, Dan Kohler, Council President Shani Starr, Kyle Duran, and Sarita Cross are all unpaid volunteers, all working and providing this service to our community as a volunteer. They have chosen to give their time, to put themselves out there saying, yes, Keizer community, I'm willing to serve in this area. And then you look back on the approximately 60 people who have stepped up over the years to serve as a city council member or a mayor. I'm the sixth mayor of Keizer, in case people are wondering. Because Keizer, again, still a baby city, still pretty young. So it's important to remember that, yes, when you get into this work as a service, that you are choosing to spend your time digging in to bring your best self, but also the best team vision for what Keizer is and can be. So yes, facing our financial challenges, things beyond our control. We don't control Measure 50. We don't control the fact that when Measure 110 was passed, the legislature chose to take the funding away from the portion that goes to the cities rather than the portion that was going to the state. We lost about $110,000, $120,000.
Wow.
Based on from our sales, from our shared revenue that we were supposed to get. So that's significant.
Yeah, that is huge.
We also have other constraints on our general fund with the property tax, the limitations. We have a lot of things that are taking money away. Every time the legislature passes a property tax exemption, it comes not out of their general fund, but out of our hide.
City. Yeah. Because they're going to keep their fund going.
Right.
So,
but they give away ours.
Yeah. So, I was just sitting here thinking about what are some creative ways that Keizerites can function better and easier. Because I know there are a lot of fundraising things that go on. I know there are a lot of just innovative things. What are some innovations that you feel like can come down the pike that maybe haven't been thought of yet?
Well, I don't know if it haven't been thought of. Keizer is actually seen as a leader in this region for a lot of reasons, one of which is this spirit of innovation. Let's try something. And we're not afraid to try something and go, well, that didn't work out quite as we planned. Let's take another run at it or look at it from a different point of view. So we've been able to do projects that some people get very nervous. Oh my gosh, that's really big for Keizer. We shouldn't do that. And I'm like, are you kidding? Bring
Keizer.
it. It's Keizer. Of course we're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Of course we're going to be able to do big things because we figured out that it's not just one person or one organization, but we as community figure it out. If it's important to do, we figure it out and we get it done. I tell everybody, Keizer punches above our weight class all the time, but we're now recognized as a leader in our region because of that. So it's not just me showing up. It's not just our chamber showing up. Our chamber has led the way with the business recovery and now the business resource center. That was so innovative.
It was.
Keizer led the way.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of this innovation and we figure things out. Let me give you a very, very small example, but I think it's one I'm excited about. Years ago, Councilor Walsh and I wanted to have a youth liaisons and a youth program within our city government. We saw other cities that had youth programs, but they had staffing that could do that kind of work and manage that program. We don't have that ability. So we started off small. and we started a program for a youth liaison to city council, a youth counselor. Then over time, we grew it to having an open position for every single committee and commission, recognizing that many of our nonprofits, our chamber, library, PGE, Salem Electric, they have youth liaisons. Okay, so let's do that. So we began the process of recruiting students from McNary High School, Blanchette, homeschool to apply to be youth liaisons. Over time, that has grown, and we have had some magnificent young people who have applied to be liaisons to our committees and commissions.
Fantastic.
Do we have staffing for that? No. Could we do more? Possibly. But we created what we could with what we had, and then the school has been able to help us with getting the word out to our students.
That's awesome.
Now, as a little point of reference, the city of Salem does not have such a program. Do they have the resources maybe to do something more? Maybe, but again, they're looking at great constraints on staff time as well, just like we are, where staff is doing more than one, they're wearing more than one hat. So we started off with something we could do. We got the partnerships to get it done, and we are now seen as a leader for bringing in and engaging with youth voice. That's one very small example.
Which goes back to your other claim, and that's succession planning. Because if you don't bring the youth in, you can't plan and teach them if they aren't seeing it early on, because it doesn't just magically come to their minds. What I've noticed, a brain drain happening in almost every job market out there. And that is, as people retire out, the new people come in, and this training hasn't cross-trained, so they at least know this, and then they can go above that. They're actually starting down here, and it's like they're trying to recreate a wheel. And I'm like, dude, we did that in the 80s. Let's go beyond the 80s. Let's get bigger and better. And that's one of the earmarks of a really good city, and that's where it does continue to keep some of those senior people in long enough to see that succession planning. But that youth thing, bringing them in now so they see how it works, and they see that community spirit that you talked about at the beginning happen now, then they can continue that, because it's part of the DNA then of a Keizerite.
It's expected, and I love that the Chamber has added the Dennis Coho Future First Citizen Award, where we are getting applications from high school students and recognizing that these are our future first citizens, the people who invest and who volunteer and who make meaningful differences. And we want to recognize and encourage that our young people do that now. They're not waiting till they reach a certain age. And again, Keizer is community. They live here, therefore they are community. And therefore they make a difference. So come out on March 16th. We're going to be doing our 14th annual City Hall Cleanup Day.
Oh, nice.
And everybody come. Bring your rakes, shovels, your gloves. It is a whole lot of fun. We have families come out. Our parents are bringing their children or grandchildren to understand that volunteering, giving in our community, being part of community means showing up, little elbow grease.
March 14th.
March 16th.
Oh, 16th. Okay,
16th.
so
It's
it's
a
a
Saturday.
Saturday. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Got
9
it.
o'clock, be there at the Civic Center. We do the entire campus, and it's a whole lot of fun. And I love that people bring their youth and the kids with them. And a big shout out to McNary High School, the National Honor Society, the Junior Air Force ROTC, and so many other McNary youth groups and clubs and so forth also turn out for this.
Fantastic.
Rotary, Clagger Creek Watershed Council. And we have so many youth and young adults that are putting into action pride, spirit, and volunteerism from a young age so that they will carry those values into their adult lives and continue to live that out.
I appreciate that. I have a question. I know one of the things that I noticed in the statistics is that McNary High School has had a higher graduation rate than the Salem schools. And what do you attribute that to?
Tremendous leadership and vision on the part of Eric Jesperson, the entire leadership team, and then he worked to engage with the entire staff. And he set an attitude of world-class McNary cells. He said to the point where people's eyes would roll, but they got it.
Yeah.
That we think differently about ourselves. Keizer, we think differently about ourselves. We are not an Eeyore. We're not like, yeah, we're just Keizer, da, da, da,
Right.
or, well, we'll just go along to get along or do the bare minimum.
Rain.
Yep. No, loud and proud. We
right.
are Keizer. We're not just not Salem, which was 40 years ago. Thank you for starting that, but we had to become more than not Salem. We had to establish an identity, a sense of purpose, a sense of leadership, and we've done that. Keizer is a very distinctive community, and anybody who comes here, moves here, does business here will tell you we are unique and we have an identity and a sense of purpose that is distinct and is palpable. So when we are engaging, we want to make sure that people understand that this is a get-it-done community. With that attitude at McNary that we are world-class, the students and the staff began to walk and talk and think differently.
Yeah.
Then add on top of that the incredible vision of the Career Technical Education Center.
CTE.
But it's more than that. There are over 60 programs of CTE in the home high schools.
Wow.
The 6 high schools in our Salem-Keizer School District, and actually with Barbara Roberts, I think 7, they have programs.
Fantastic.
So if you haven't been to McNary High School in the last 3 years, you haven't been to McNary High
That's
School.
right, because it's changed. Yeah, the remodel, everything. Yeah, it's
But they
fantastic.
remodeled the attitude. They refer to the students as young professionals. Now think about that.
Yeah.
I'm a student. I'm just here. I'll get my Dia's diploma, whatever. I'm a young professional. You carry yourself differently. You think about yourself differently.
You think future too.
You're thinking about your future, and you behave differently. You there's a pride that comes in. I'm a young professional, and with that expectation in yourself and from the teachers and staff that you are going to perform at an increasingly more proficient level of both your skills and your professional skills, this changing the attitude. And that is so critical to the success of our students graduating. On top of that, statistics show that if a student is involved in a sport, a music, a club, an activity, graduation rates rise. Between that and the CTE programs, we have set students up as young professionals to be successul.
And I think what I've noticed too about Keizer schools is you are encouraging parents' involvement.
Yes.
I mean, all those things you said, fantastic. But without parents, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. Because if parents are just dropping off kids, you can tell a kid in a school as a teacher all you want, but if a parent doesn't reinforce it, and that's what I'm noticing, parent involvement is high. And so they're reinforcing what you're doing at school, and you're reinforcing what the parents are doing at home, which is that you're a young professional. What you do today matters for your future.
Yes.
I think that's huge.
Well, and let's take it even more foundationally. You, student, you young person, you child, you matter. You matter so much that your parents, your neighbors, grandparents, aunts and uncles, and your teachers and the staff are all, you're so important. We're all investing in you. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And that you, young person, youth, you make a difference. When you show up for the cleanup, when you show up to help the kid next to you with a math problem or help them learn how to ride a bike. Now you're giving. So it's a flow through, and we're teaching them from a young age that they matter and what they do matters.
Right. On top of that, you're also teaching responsibility, because you matter without responsibility is indulgence. Indulgence goes the same way as neglect. The child does not work on either end, neglect, indulgence, or neglect. It doesn't work. And so we see that in the research, that the higher level of parent engagement, the higher level of graduation, the higher level of on-campus opportunities for the majority of students. Some will choose. When you look at the bell curve, and we've all done a little bit of science, you look at about, 14.8% of people, nothing you can do to stop them from succeeding. About 14.8%, nothing you can do to make them succeed. Those are choices. But there's a 70% group in the middle that you can affect.
Well, and then look at our numbers. On top of that, apparently we have figured out, the staff at the school and the community has figured out how to move that bell curve where our graduation rate is 92, 93%.
Which is awesome. Which normally it would be roughly 85 point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really key when you start looking at what is happening generically in schools. Because if I'm not mistaken, it was less than 68% in Marion County.
Whoa.
It was bad. It was a huge dropout rate. And COVID didn't help, but this is pre-COVID. 2018, bad dropout rate. 2017, bad dropout rate. Well, how do I know these things? Well, it's my job to know, to present hope and healing and wholeness. Because to me, when a student finishes something they start, that begins hope.
Yes.
Okay. And one of the things that we're presenting here today is hope. And hope produces a community healed like Keizer, and it also produces a nation healed. And that healing creates wholeness. I mean, so it's really in keeping with my mission, and I don't even know what your politics, I don't even know what your background is. I just know you're a great mayor. That's what I know.
Thank you.
I have not tried to investigate what that is. I agree with the ideas of what you're doing, Cathy, and I hope that this legacy gets to go these 2 more years so you can transition to the next layer. I hope that happens. What would you like people to know before we give how people can get a hold of you? What would you like people to know? What's kind of a parting comment for you?
I want to encourage everybody in Keizer, continue to show up, continue to be community. We are a recognized leader. We are a special community because we have embraced a very active and engaged lifestyle, and we break down barriers. We get to yes. We figure things out. That is the beauty and the foundation of pride, spirit, and volunteerism in action. I am so honored and privileged to be able to serve in this capacity, first as a city councilor and now as a mayor for this, my 10th year. And I would like to finish a lot of the transition that has started. Our majority of our council is now Gen X. Things are going as they should. And I'm looking forward to the next generation taking the reins and getting to build on what we have been able to do and bring in their uniqueness, their special gifts and talents to continue to make Keizer a place that people want to live, want to work, want to raise their families, and want to keep a very special place for the future. If people want to get a hold of me, go to my Facebook page, Mayor Cathy Clark. My email is Clark, then the letter C, @keizer.org. And please get a hold of me. I am looking forward to this year bringing back the live in-person Coffee with Cathy. Probably won't happen until about April. I will be at the City Hall cleanup. You'll see me out there with my gloves and my rake helping out. But most importantly, keep being the special leader and community caring group of people that we are that makes Keizer.
Yeah, I think so too. One of the things that you guys may or may not know about Cathy, but she can sing like a dream. I mean, she's amazing. And it kind of was by accident that I heard we were at a Christmas event one time, and everybody was doing Christmas carols. The Highlanders from McNary were over there singing, and then the whole group started singing. And I was standing next to Cathy, and I can't sing. So I recognize good singing, but I can't produce it. And it was just amazing. And then I've heard you sing in other venues and stuff. So that's fun. So who knows? You might be privileged to get the singing mayor at one point. You can also connect with Cathy at Keizer's official website, where you actually can go at Keizer, Oregon official website, mayor. And then you can also call at still 503-856-3403.
Yes.
Okay. And again, I'm not here to promote necessarily her in particular, but I want the hope the healing and the wholeness that she fosters to continue on. And so if that promotes her, great. Okay. Does that make sense? Because to me, that's what matters here in Keizer, and it matters in Salem too. And hopefully we'll have Julie Hoy on pretty soon to talk to her about what her vision for Salem is. I'm really excited about that. It's about time for us to wrap up. I would like to encourage anyone who is not yet involved in Keizer to call Cathy, to go have coffee, to listen to what's going on, to maybe attend a council meeting, just to sit in and listen. A lot of times you don't have to say anything, just sit and listen to kind of get an update. It can kind of seem like a lot of wah, 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 but it's not. If you get to the details and the long-term effect that these decisions have, it matters to you and it matters to me. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you being here, Cathy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this conversation.
It's been fun. We'll talk to you soon. And don't forget, we have some great sponsors on here. Stella Dinwiddie with Dinwiddie Agencies, Donna Prigmore Consulting, and also Nolan Productions. We'll be back next time.